What are some very creepy facts? Female mummies in ancient Egypt were always more decomposed than their male counterparts. They discovered that this was because male bodies were embalmed a lot sooner than female bodies. Female bodies were kept at the family home until they started to decompose in order to avoid necrophilia at the embalmers. Well, that escalated quickly. If Reddit has taught me anything, it's that necrophilia is inevitable. There is a reason this line is legendary. I also choose this guy's dead wife. After getting stung by a cone snail, you don't feel the sting for a little bit. There is no antivenom and it can be lethal. Treatment is basically keeping the victim alive until the venom wears off. Cone snails are pretty freaky. Some of the most deadly ones can kill you in 30 minutes or less after they sting you. Their shells are super pretty too, so any beachcomber should be aware of these creatures and know how to pick up a shell carefully just in case someone might still be inside. Blobfish in its natural habitat looks like a normal fish, but it lives so deep underwater that it doesn't use a normal gas bladder to keep itself balanced. Instead, it has a spongy skin that is slightly less dense than water, which becomes damaged and bloated when fishermen bring it up too quickly. It's not really the ugliest fish. It has just experienced something worse than one of us being thrown into outer space. Between sea level and space, there's 1 atmospheric pressure of difference. Between sea level and 2,000 feet underwater, their upper limit, there's 60 atmospheres of difference. Here's a comparison pic, 30a.com. Holy cow, thanks for the awards. And wow, like 50 people drew a connection to Made in Abyss. Never even heard of it before, but maybe you'll check it out now. Now I feel terrible for them. Yeah, that's actually a neat looking fish in its natural habitat. Those poor bastards. One reason that crows and ravens are associated with death is because they would often follow armies as they marched to battle. Being both carrion birds and extremely intelligent, they realized that a large group of armed men marching on one direction meant that there would be a tasty meal of corpses to eat soon afterwards. That's actually pretty neat. I'd like to subscribe to Crow Facts, thanks. Thank you for subscribing to Crow Facts. Did you know that crows can speak English? If you begin to display symptoms of rabies, you will go crazy and die. There's no cure. Your brain will slowly melt until you're dead. The second you get bitten by anything, you should literally speed to the hospital. Unless you don't notice because you were bitten by a tiny infected bat with tiny teeth. You didn't feel the pinch because it happened while you were asleep in a hammock outside. Make sure to read the bottom, friends. I woke up with a bat in my bedroom and didn't capture it. I mentioned it to my doctor, who called the county epidemiologist. Then their office called me and strongly advised I get the rabies shots because a sizable portion of people who die of rabies do so because they woke up with a bat and didn't realize it bit them. It's a very small number, but still. The scare campaign worked and I wound up getting the series of shots. I had no insurance, but it was all paid for by the county. It was 5 sets of shots. The first one was a set of 2 rigged shots in my ass and a different kind in my arm. The last 4 were just the one in my arm, spaced out at a specific interval, 1, 3, 7, 14, 21 days apart, I think. It wasn't so bad, so if anyone reading ever needs them, don't be too freaked out. It was no worse than a tetanus shot, and it was not in my stomach or anything mad like that. Serial killer Richard Chase took any unlocked door as an invitation to come inside. Men who are hanged get a death erection, known as rigor erectus. Pretty awkward for the family, I assume. This is the one time I'd advocate using hung instead of hanged. They said you were hung. And they were right. Crocodiles can gallop. Like a horse. I don't like knowing this, so I'm cursing you people with this knowledge as well. Fortunately, alligators cannot. So that's how you tell them apart. Yeah, but now I'm confused how to tell a horse and crocodile apart. A black mamba is the fastest snake, which can slither at a speed of 12.5 miles an hour, 20 km/h. They have neurotoxins which are fast-acting. The venom shuts down the nervous system and paralyzes the victim. Its venom is able to kill 10 people and it repeatedly bites. To add on to this, there is an almost 100% kill rate and can kill in 20 minutes. When I went on a safari, the guide had no problem driving by the family of lions, cougars, crazy hippos, everything else we saw. However, when he spotted a black mamba, this incredible fear came over his face. The snake was right in the middle of the dirt road and he wouldn't even drive past it. We were in one of those open Jeep safari things. The guide was so frightened that he just zoomed in reverse and got away so quickly. He said they can jump up in the car and do all kinds of crazy things. I don't know if that's true, but I know that he was genuinely afraid and we got out of that area so fast. Yeah, I read a book a long time ago talking that mentioned mambas and it described that they'd sit still and straight so that from a distance they look like a stick or something. Also in older safari jeeps that were pretty open it was possible to hit one on the road and a pissed off mamba flung up into the cabin into your lap. Also green mambas are fast as duck too. I saw a snake keeper who survived a green mamba bite describe how he didn't see the snake bite him and only felt the effects after closing the cage. Teresa, parasite that enters a fish's mouth, eats the tongue and replaces itself as the fish's new tongue. As a fish, there isn't a cure and it sucks. I keep saying stuff I don't mean to say. If you live to age 70 you will have shed around 105 pounds of skin. Edit, because most seem confused. I mean over time, not all at once, that would be terrible. Ducks become cannibals due to boredom, of all ducking reasons. They can only be stopped by cutting off their mouths. Don't duck with ducks. Quack is whack. It's finally my moment. It wasn't until 1987 that the American Academy of Pediatrics declared it unethical to operate on newborns without anesthesia. Until surprisingly recently, the medical community felt it would be dangerous to give infants anesthesia and/or believe that they didn't feel pain. BostonGlobe.com. Thank God I was born in 1987. It was once discovered that a fir tree was growing inside a human body. Artyom Sidorkin went to the doctors suspecting something wrong with his lungs. The doctors thought they were dealing with a tumor, but turns out he had inhaled a fir tree seed which had sprouted and had begun growing in his lungs. Edit, while so Grey's Anatomy is a popular show. I'm sure this was the inspiration for that episode. He also had a watermelon and a gum tree in there. He had his belly button stapled shut cause he unknotted it as a kid. Cockroaches have been recorded eating human flesh, both living and dead, as well as fingernails, eyelashes, feet, and hands. The American cockroach and German cockroach are more likely to bite humans than other species. Pretty sure Australian cockroaches do something equally creepy, but as an Australian who plans to sleep at some point in the future, I'm not going to Google it. There are many studies that show they don't like human contact, and will clean themselves rigorously if they touch us. Our skin is very oily and can suffocate the breathing holes in their carapace. So we are the creepy fact to cockroaches. Nice. We're the creepy fact to most life on Earth. There was a speech made for Apollo 11 if they were to die on the moon. Side fact, if it were to happen, people would look up at the moon knowing that crew died there, and their bodies would rest there till the end of time. Not forgetting that the ocean is somewhat like this, many people died there too, at the very depths of the sea. Also, their bodies would not have decomposed because the moon has no oxygen. Instead they would become mummies. Ancient Egyptians hate him. People don't take their antimalarial drugs when they travel because they hear bad stories about the side effects and they see native people in the areas living okay without taking pills every day. The truth is, populations native to malaria endemic areas have all passed through pretty intense natural selection for survival, and have a host of genes that prevent them from dying or suffering the other worst effects. Also, most of the resistance is built up over time. This is why it's most common for children to die rather than adults. Whatever people have heard about the side effects of the antimalarials, getting it is so much worse. I, fortunately, have never had it, but I study it as part of my work and people have told me about having it and they all say the same thing. It is so awful you can't believe you're even still alive. It comes in cycles, usually 48 hours, and each cycle is agonizing and brings you the brink of death. Sometimes it takes you, sometimes it spares you for another few hours until it starts again. And there are forms that, even if you clear the infection with drugs, it still remains dormant in your system and can come back at any time. Edit, I don't want to freak people out too much. There are drug combinations that can kill every stage of the parasite as long as there is no drug resistance. We lost our antimalarial drugs for a period of 2 weeks when we visited India about 20 years ago. I was hospitalized with malaria 9 months after we came back. Edit, I need to clarify that I was hospitalized after being back in the US for 9 months. I spent a month in the hospital. Sorry for the confusion.